Hello watch enthusiasts and welcome to Watch Chronicler. On Friday the 29th of May 1953, Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary summited the legendary Mount Everest for the first time. This undertaking took the pair far beyond prior achievements and to an altitude of 8,848 metres. Famously both wore Rolexes, although it remains unclear whether Norgay wore a normal oyster or the gold model won for his previous exploits. Hillary, on the other hand, did wear a standard oyster, with an extra long leather strap and oils specifically designed for low temperatures. However, he also carried or wore a watch from the Smiths watch brand, which was based in Sheffield and which functioned throughout the climb. Returning to exploration in 1955, Hillary then embarked upon a journey across the Antarctic, which lasted until 1958. On his wrist this time was a British watch in the form of another Sheffield-made Smiths. By comparison to the Smiths worn on Everest, this piece had central seconds, but retained the characteristic looks visible in the watch in today's video. Before I begin this video, I would like to make the statement that the watch shown is my own, and I purchased it for my personal ownership, not for any sort of reason to show it in a review per se. And the video has been produced with the kind cooperation of Time Factors in order to be able to answer any questions which I had regarding the watch and to produce a more complete video, but I assure you no payment has been received. Whilst you're here, why not like, share and subscribe to support Watch Chronicler and to see more content in future? Also follow us on Instagram for photos and head over to watchchronicler.com to see full articles on new releases, the history of watches and an in-depth version of this video with full specs list. Nowadays, Smiths is owned by Time Factors, a small company which sells small-run watches of impressive quality in England. The Smiths PRS-25 will be familiar to those in search of a good quality homage to the legendary Rolex 1016 Explorer. However, this new model represents a much more original approach, which pays direct homage to the original watch proudly worn by Edmund Hillary. In short, this watch has serious heritage to live up to. What is important to note, first of all, is that this watch is unapologetically vintage, but sacrifices no functionality to be so. For all the vintage enthusiasts out there, the 36mm case with only a 43.5mm lug-to-lug measurement will be a treat to wear. The design of this part of the watch is inspired most closely by Rolex's oyster cases, with extremely delicate brushing and polishing standing out from other watches at this price of £325, but also for much, much more. However, the case shape feels nothing like a Rolex in the hand. The lugs feel more rounded and robust, especially as they're drilled for easy strap changing, and the bezel feels narrower but more robust than those used by Rolex. The result is a watch which feels as small as the specs would suggest, while still feeling as substantial as a 40mm case on the wrist if you prefer larger watches. The crown screws down but aligns beautifully with the case to display a very deeply engraved S, and the case back shows a philosophy of simple quality as it's quite simply polished and deeply engraved with the watch's details, but with no unsightly laser etching to be seen here. The depth of this watch remains modest at 11.3mm, despite a 2.5mm thick box-domed sapphire crystal with internal anti-reflective coating. This guarantees the best balance of durability and also legibility, and is almost unheard of at this price range for such quality. All of this is rounded off with a 100-metre water resistance to see this Smiths Everest Expedition through the most trying of circumstances in use as a field watch. The dial is, though, where the watch really comes to life. As you can see, the dial of this watch is very closely related to that of the Smiths A454 worn by Sir Edmund Hillary in the Antarctic, with a wonderful semi-matte clotted cream surface. Not only is the colour beautifully chosen for this watch, the dial is actually stepped to separate the text in the centre of the dial from the Arabic numerals around the edge. Speaking of the numerals, these are exceptionally finely painted onto the dial in black, as is the Great Britain designation at 6, and are then given a coating of Superluminova X1C3. To match these, the hands receive the same treatment, resulting in low light visibility. I must admit that I was prepared for this watch to have mediocre lume, but with 8 hours of legibility it puts up a serious answer to that of a Seiko with similar quantities on the dial. The hands of the watch are, in an unheard of turn for this price, thermally rather than chemically blued to give an inimitably subtle appearance. Their deep saturated colour is offset effectively by the bright red second hand which, like the other hands, hits its respective markers perfectly. The syringe hands are also very well proportioned by narrowing the minute hand and making the luminous pip on the second hand the width of the hour hand. Where the dial printing is concerned, the logo at 12 is beautifully picked out in dusty blue to match the Everest Expedition text and the red 24 Joules text down below. As I move on to the movement of this watch, I think that we should pause on the Great Britain designation on the dial. As was kindly clarified for me by Eddie Platts of Time Factors, these watches are not made in Great Britain, but they are conceived and designed here whilst the company is registered in England. The movement inside this watch has clearly been chosen very carefully and is the Miyota 9039 from Japan, the no-date version of the 9015. For the price of this watch, it could have featured a relatively low-grade ETA 2824 or this movement, and for a number of reasons, I think that this was perhaps the better choice. The modern Miyota movement offers much the same specifications as the ETA 2824, with a 4Hz beat rate, 42-hour power reserve and automatic winding, something which the original Smiths did not offer. In favour of the Miyota, I've found that this movement offers a smoother hacking and manual winding function to the ETA, and also I found that those ETA 2824 manual winding functions tend to wear out, whereas I haven't experienced that with the Miyota 9015 or any of its derivatives. As a further argument for this movement, time factors also revealed their movement failure rates, which were 2 to 3% for the ETA movement, and under 1% for this more modern Miyota movement. And whilst accuracy isn't guaranteed with these movements, my example has kept a steady plus 6 seconds per day, which I find entirely acceptable for this price. The bracelet which you see on this watch is perhaps one of the best choices of the whole package, on account of matching the watch faultlessly. This bracelet offers modern practicalities such as a solid deployant clasp to match the solid links and end links, whilst using screws for ease of sizing. However, to give a vintage feel, the clasp is simple if beautifully machined, and CNC machined rivets stick out of the step-tapered links. Of course, this is also very much a spin-off of the Rolex Oyster bracelet, but it is nonetheless perfectly suited to this watch and case. The result is a wonderfully balanced watch on the wrist, and a very comfortable setup. The watch also ships with a nubuck-style leather strap which is fitted with a rolling buckle to give an experience more similar to that of the original watches worn during these expeditions. Placing the watch on my 7-inch wrist, it's immediately apparent that the size has been very well chosen. Its 36mm don't feel dainty, but do combine the modesty of a mid-20th century dress watch with all the functionality of a serious field watch. In truth, it's the kind of timepiece which makes you reflect upon what actually is necessary in a watch, and what you can do without. Considering the fact that you have to order these watches when Time Factors is specifically open, something easier said than done sometimes due to limited opening hours, this is not a watch for everyone. However, if you work with Time Factors under the understanding that they operate this way to offer better value, this is a truly cracking watch for £325, and one which provides superb quality, evident know-how and beautiful design at a very reasonable price. And so I'll conclude the video there, but do tell me what you thought of this video down below, and like, share and subscribe to see more on this channel, and head over to watchchronicler.com for the full article and much, much more. And so this is Armon from watchchronicler.com, out.